What's up, everybody? Welcome to Self-Helpless Snacks, where we give you a little taste of the Self-Helpless podcast with some quick tips and inspo via a mini episode. I'm Delanie Fischer, and today I'm sharing a little snippet from a conversation I had with my sister-in-law, Olivia Mulford. Like many of us, Olivia's career trajectory was significantly impacted by the pandemic. She had just graduated college and moved to DC and was on this path of working in foreign policy, I think it would be considered. And now, years later, she's doing something completely different than anything she thought she'd be pursuing. She actually works in yachting. And yes, her job is just like that show Below Deck. And she's been working her way up the ranks as a deckhand. And then I think it's called a bosun and so on. And at the time of our chat, which was about a year ago, I think she was either on one of the yachts that she worked on or in a different country somewhere. And the reason I wanted to share this part of the conversation is because Olivia mentions that she isn't someone who was ever super passionate or completely set on a specific job or career, but she was very clear on the kind of lifestyle she wanted for herself. And I know so many of us can feel pressure to have a lot figured out before we take action on something. We often feel like we have to know the exact job or profession we need to pursue. And if we don't know exactly what that is, we can feel like a failure or feel lost. And what's awesome is that your next step can actually be inspired by the kind of lifestyle and day to day you want for yourself. And whatever fits into that is something that you can develop passion around because it fuels the life that you want. So, whether you're recently out of school or just joining the workforce, or perhaps considering changing your career path after a good chunk of time doing whatever you've been doing, I hope this inspires you to look at what could be next for you a little differently. I think we can really be too focused on the job we think we need to have, for whatever reason or societal pressures. And sometimes in turn, we neglect the life that we actually truly want. So let's flip that. And here's a bit of my chat with Olivia. How did all this come to be? Did you come out the womb wanting to be a yachty? How did this get on your radar, and what steps did you take to make it
Yeah,
happen?
I came out of the womb wanting to meet Andy Cohen and be on Below Deck.
Did you want to be a seafarer?
Yes, I did, darling. No, so I mean, I went to university. I went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Go Badgers. I studied political science, and my goal was to be a foreign service officer at the State Department or work for the
Yeah.
UN. Like,
So
could not
different.
be so different from what I'm doing.
Yes.
So during COVID, I moved to DC to pursue my dreams of being a foreign service officer and a diplomat,
Yeah.
And I moved to DC in October 2019. And well, actually, I worked at a Soul Cycle as a front desk person.
Oh, okay. There we
That
go.
was my first job in DC. And then I got an
Nice.
internship. And then came like February 2020, and I was like, I
Yeah.
definitely don't want to work for a senator. So in February, I applied to be a flight attendant
Oh, I don't know
for,
if I knew that.
yeah,
Oh,
for,
interesting. What was the jump? What was the interest in being a flight attendant? What was the draw for you for that?
yeah. So I was only in an internship, and I'd been applying for real jobs, and I wasn't really having any luck. And I was like, you know what? I just really want to travel. I love seeing new places. And I've always kind of wanted to be a flight attendant. I always thought it would be really cool.
Ah,
So I applied for Emirates. I made it through, there's 4 rounds, and I made it through 2 rounds. And then after the second round, they were not hiring anymore because of COVID. I could have been like living my best life in Dubai.
yeah.
Instead, I'm in a house in DC and I can't see anyone because we're in lockdown
Right,
and I'm working.
right.
End of April 2020, I decided that I was just going to go home with my parents than live in a house with 5 other people during COVID and like I'm stuck in the city. Then I
Makes
can at
sense.
least have food cooked by my dad instead of
Exactly. And that's basically like being a diplomat, right?
yeah, exactly. I was a diplomat to Rockford, Illinois from
Love
Washington,
it.
D.C.
I also love the fact that your original idea was to be a flight attendant because you were interested in traveling, and now you're like a flight attendant of the sea. It's a
Exactly.
very interesting kind of pivot or what it led to because so many people go for the thing that they think that they want and then they're kind of redirected to something else that might end up being a better fit or they weren't thinking about. So what were the steps after that? How did you
Yeah.
get on that boat,
So
girl?
I had a friend whose friend did, it's called an STCW, and it stands for, I couldn't tell you, safe training. I don't know. I don't know
It's
what it
about
stands for.
boat stuff.
It's a 5-day course that you have to take, the base prerequisite to take to be in yachting.
Okay.
So this girl took it, and I was like, it's actually really cool. I was like,
Yeah.
I should do that. And I'm very lucky that my parents are really supportive.
Yeah.
And some friends, they told their parents they wanted to do yachting, and everyone was like, oh, like, what is that? Like, why would you want to do that? What kind of money are you going to make from that?
Right.
And I brought it up to them. They're like, oh, you should get in contact with our cousin who like works with sailboats, works for an estate that has a bunch of sailboats in San Francisco.
Okay.
And he prepares them and keeps them maintained for the owners. So I got in contact with him. He got me in contact with a coworker who is actually in yachting. So in October, I flew down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I don't ever feel this way because I'm like quite independent. I travel by myself. I have no problem. I landed in Fort Lauderdale and I thought I was going to throw up because I didn't know anyone in Florida. I moved to DC, but I had a couple friends.
Yeah.
And also they're like hostels kind of. They're called crew houses.
Okay.
So in Fort Lauderdale and Palma and Antibes, big yachting hubs, they have crew houses. So they're exactly like hostels, like bunk beds with a kitchen and bathrooms and blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah.
I moved to this hostel, took my STCW class, and that was 2.5 years ago. And I'm
Jeez.
still doing it.
Where has this career taken you? What parts of the world have you been able to see?
I've done the Bahamas lots of times. I'm like
Nice.
so over the Bahamas. Oh my God.
I've also done the Bahamas actually. I did stand up on a cruise ship. So I worked a boat on the Bahamas too. We were just doing very different things.
I'm still on a boat,
Still on a boat. We still worked on a boat at some point.
Yeah. So I've been to the Bahamas, uh, the British and US Virgin Islands.
Nice.
This summer I've done Spain, Italy, France, Montenegro, Croatia.
Jeez.
I think that's it. And then on top of that, on my time off here, being in Europe on my own, I went to Egypt, Turkey, and Portugal.
Oh my gosh. That
Oh,
is
I've been to
so
Monaco now too.
yeah. You've been all over the freaking place.
I do sometimes like you have this like extravagant idea of having an eat, pray, love trip on your own or
Yeah.
something. And like some days it's really nice to be by yourself, and then some
Yeah.
days you get like, I guess I'll just go out and have a drink by myself. I have no friends.
Yeah.
But I think it's really nice and important to stay at hostels because you meet so many people. And
Yes.
when I was in Turkey, I stayed at this hostel in Istanbul and I met an amazing group of people and we went out and did all the touristy things and it was really awesome. And it gives you kind of an insight to yourself. I think it does like give you a sense of what you like, what you don't like, what you want to do. Like you don't
Yeah.
have anyone to answer to.
Yeah. It's like
Um,
complete freedom, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm
You
not going to say
really
I found myself or anything because I have a lot of finding to do.
that'll take a lifetime. I don't think
Yeah.
we ever find ourselves. Ourself just keeps changing and we try to catch up after it. It's always evolving. So when you made that transition, you realized, wait a minute, I thought this is what I wanted when you went to DC, right? I thought I wanted to work in this field and all that stuff. And maybe you weren't enjoying it so much and you had to pivot, not only for not liking it, but because of COVID reasons. Do you think if COVID did not happen, you would have just stuck it out and been kind of unhappy going down this path that you originally sought out? Was it hard to pit? Did you like have to grieve this idea that you thought you were going to do this thing for so long and then you didn't actually want to? What were those feelings that were coming up for you that time?
I don't know if it was grieving, but I think I would have found my niche within the area of
Yeah.
expertise. Maybe instead of foreign service officer, because even like later I was leaning towards working with refugees. So I took 3.5 years of Arabic at school. So I wanted to work with refugees. I thought like working for the UNHCR, doing something that's good,
Yeah.
doing something that
Yeah.
can help people.
Yeah.
I think I would have found what made me happy.
Right.
And whether I definitely could say it was not going to be working on the Hill, because I also wanted to travel like with work.
Yeah.
And that's also why I kind of looked at foreign service officer or even like FBI, CIA, because that allows you to go places and see new cultures and meet new people. But I think I didn't grieve about it because my heart was like never really.
Yeah.
I never had like a passion for. No, I wasn't like, oh, I want to be a doctor, or
Right.
oh my god, I want to work for the FBI. It
Yeah.
was just something that I thought maybe that I was interested in. So I didn't really have this affinity towards one thing or another. So I didn't
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
feel that way.
I think it's very interesting that your passion for travel kind of opened up all these different ideas for you. So maybe you kind of mentioned like you were never passionate about, I gotta be a lawyer, I gotta be a doctor, I gotta be this, but this passion that travel, you wanted it to be part of your job, led you down a lot of these different paths or options. And so many people tuning in right now are like, I'm having a hard time piecing together the patterns of what I like. I feel all over the place. I don't know what to do. But I think what you said is really important, because the fact that you want to travel the world could be the key that unlocks your next steps. That could be enough for you to take action in a certain direction. For example,
Right.
like I know that I don't want my job to be traveling the world at all. And so that is, everybody has a unique kind of dream or driving force. And I think that's really important, that you may have not known the exact type of profession or something, but you did have something that you were working toward. I think that's going to help a lot
Exactly.
of people tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to the Self-Helpless podcast. You can find our Patreon community, merch, and other goodies at selfhelplesspodcast.com. We'd be thrilled if you left an iTunes review, shared this episode with a friend, or post about it on Instagram and tag at Self-Helpless Podcast so we can repost you and say hi. Thanks, everyone.